I live in Japan, and instead of paying rent, we turned this van into our home. In this video I'm going to show you how exactly we did it, step by step, from an empty shell to a place that actually feels like home. This is what I started with.
Toyota Hiace.
Just a construction car from Tokyo with lots of scratches inside. There was a simple 3-seater bench in the back, and other than that, only a thick wooden floor. We needed a place to sleep, rest, cook, and store all our things. And of course, a reliable enough car that will bring us to those amazing places, which I will tell you about in a different video. We moved to Japan with each only one bag, so it seemed to be possible to store everything inside. It was time to decide the layout and to think about where to put everything, how much storage we needed, and to make it possible to still move inside in such a tiny space with 2 people. Planning is always the hardest, and especially I'm really bad at it.
Hard.
But luckily, Yukari has much more patience and brain than I do. After a few paintings and some long brainstorming sessions, we decided to build the bed in the back of the car. This would give us enough space underneath to store our clothes and all the things that needed space, and also kind of divide the sleeping space and the kind of kitchen, which would be in the front. We kept a little storage on the side of the bed to be able to put our window mats that we used at night, and also to have a little table where we could maybe put a phone or something small. And in the front part there would then be the battery, there would be the fridge.
We are building some kind of like bench, which will be about here.
And enough space for our drinking water, as well as cooking utensils, coffee stuff, and all the small things we needed to be able to reach easily. You might think I'm at an abandoned petrol station in Japan, but it is not. And I think you have no idea what that actually is. I will tell you at the end of the video, and I think you will be surprised. After we picked up the Toyota Hiace in Tokyo, we decided to visit our friends at Mount Fuji. But because the guys who used the car before never seemed to stop smoking cigarettes, getting rid of the smell was not so easy. It really smelled like an ashtray. We sprayed and wiped everything. The cloth that we used turned yellow. But after cleaning it, it became much better already. But the deep scratches inside the car still bothered us. Therefore, we started to paint the inside. We bought this paint from the local department store. Some rollers, brushes, and not to make a mess, we bought some masking tape. But because the paint was not strong enough in some places, we painted everything twice. We filled up some empty spaces with some wool and took off the wooden boards and painted them too. Twice. Then attached them once again. After finishing, the real building process started. This time we are in Niigata Prefecture, visiting another friend. This is where we live for the last 2 weeks. We are drying our clothes over there. Mushroom factory over there. We could borrow some tools and stay in a container next to his mushroom farm. Which is a totally different story for another time. The floor was a little rough, but gave us a good base to later on attach everything to. So all we had to do was buy a thin floor cover and cut it into size. It would be easy to clean and quite simple to install. We started with the bed, but soon realized that everything had to be very exact to be able to make it extendable and also to fit in general. Even a few millimeters would matter. Therefore, we measured a lot. We bought the necessary wood, but had to cut it in size. That was when I realized first the power of a standing circular saw. Like that. Easy peasy. We assembled everything and attached 3 different frames to the floor with some long screws. But it was far from being done. Next, we cut the pieces that we would actually sleep on. One piece attached and one extendable. At the back of the bed, we attached hinges.
Ja, hallo.
And made it possible to recline the bed, but also be able to reach things we needed.
できます。
Oi.
But there was so much space under the bed that we decided to install proper drawer slides. We could then more easily later on organize and reach things. Yukari planned and measured, and I cut and screwed. I really like the style of the back boxes. Normally these things are used in Japan to cover things or to put in front of windows to not be able to see from outside what's going on inside. They do that often in toilets or bathroom places.
Actually, it is a traditional blind called sudare, made from bamboo or reed, mainly used for sun protection.
They are very cheap, and actually that was my idea. I thought it's kind of cool, but I'm not sure if it's actually the best to do. But it gives some kind of like summer vibe into it. But the van was far from done yet. We went back to Yukari's home. It was Obon, an important time of the year where the family comes together. And the ancestors who passed away are thought to come back home too.
So I was actually kind of mixing up things. While editing, I realized that we came back for the rice harvest. Obon was actually earlier this year.
After a few days of break, it was then again time to measure and cut. Lots of thinking and finally assembling.
いいね。
強いね。
強そう。
To make everything strong enough, we used the floor, which was already in the car, to attach everything. We built frames once again, in a similar style as we did in the bed, at the bed. We could even use a better circular saw now, from Yukari's father, who's a carpenter. But only a good saw doesn't make a good build. We built the frame for the bigger shelf and filled it up with boxes we bought at the local Muji store. Therefore it was easier to build and much faster. The fridge got a nice front cover with a little handle and of course some sliding rails as well. Same as the battery, which is an EcoFlow with about 1000 watt-hours. This would give us enough juice for charging our laptop and phones, as well as our electric toothbrushes. We could charge it through a foldable solar panel. Or sometimes we took it into a library and just charged it there. Don't tell anyone. Don't do that. Don't do that when you come to Japan. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, actually, we built a little table as well, so that we could actually sit upright and drink a coffee or use the laptop. And now, after building everything and not having to pay rent, we can drive everywhere to in Japan we like. Wake up in a space we built ourselves and feel a little freedom. I think building a van is very satisfactory, and in Japan it's even more unusual to do that than in Germany. Of course, you can always get a bigger van, but something about these small places teaches you to think about what you really need. At the end of the day, we can still maneuver the small streets in Japan and basically park anywhere we want. I'm happy we did it like we did, but building was only necessary to finally explore. So we decided to start the trip and discovered the northern part of Japan, the Tohoku region.
Looks like Benke. You are Benke.
So this is actually a place where people would come with, for example, buckets or tanks, and they could fill them up with onsen water. They could take these tanks, go back home and fill up their bathtubs to soak in it. How amazing is that? But anyway, these times are over. And this station hasn't been used for quite a while. See you next time. I was recording for more than half an hour, not realizing that there's no focus on my face. The camera was set to manual focus. Still a beginner.